Bonjour la classe. This week you will have your first taste of the AP French Persuasive Essay. And as we can see, that's the final free response activity that you need to learn. It is the longest generally, about 55 minutes of the exam time is spent on it. Most of that is actually formulating the essay, though some of it is also understanding the sources that you need to use. And so I want to give you just a bit of an intro to that this week. And I'm not going to ask you to write the full essay this week, but rather I want you to spend some time trying to understand the sources, form a thesis, summarize the sources, and figure out how you would use those to support your thesis. So let's go to the activities in class. The first one is just the directions. Again, it's en français and en anglais, just like it will be on the exam itself. And the whole point is like you're submitting a persuasive essay for a French writing contest. It's based on 3 accompanying sources that go with a certain topic. In general, on the exam, you only have 6 minutes to read the topic and the printed material. Two of the sources are printed, and then the final source is actually an audio source, and you only are able to listen to it twice, taking good notes on it, and that's it, and then you're off and writing. So it's very, it takes a while to get there, and then you have 40 minutes after that, basically, to write your essay. For now, we don't need to worry about those time frames. I just want to introduce you to this task and kind of teach you how to do it. Your online course actually doesn't do a lot of the teaching. That's why I'm making videos like this. Note that this bottom paragraph of the directions, it says you should present the source's different viewpoints on the topic and also clearly indicate your own viewpoint and defend it thoroughly. That's probably the hardest thing about this task. Not only do you have to really understand the sources you're reading and listening to and display that and understand their viewpoint, but then you have to use it to defend your own viewpoint for or against an issue to make a persuasive essay. And you also have to use each of those sources clearly. If you don't use all 3 of them, there's no way you can get near a 4 or a 5. Okay, the next activity here is going to present the first 2 sources. These are both the visual source. And it also presents le sujet de l'essai. Le tourisme est l'un des essors économiques les plus importants, mais aussi les plus polluants. Comment résoudre cette crise, right? Especially in like a coastal community. We see a lot of that happening on a beach. So you need to understand that first of all. And then the sources, you can just, there's always a little introduction to the source, and then you can click on the hyperlink to go to the source itself. But I want to say something really important. The introduction to the source is almost as important as the source itself, because it just gives you an understanding about of what you're going to read about or listen to. So make sure you really pay attention to the context of the source. Otherwise, the source may be confusing. So you can click on each of these to read them. Source numéro 1 is almost always some sort of article, but source numéro 2, c'est un graphique, une affiche, some sort of graphical source. And then if I click on the very next activity, this is always la source audio. And again, the context is really, really important. What I'm going to ask you to do for this first time, you will submit the actual activity, this lesson 6 test presentational writing persuasive essay 4, but you don't need to actually write the essay. Here's what I'd like you to do instead. I'm going to give you a bit of a template to follow, but you're still going to submit this in the normal assignment area. Here's what I would like you to do. I want you to spend some good time trying to understand each of the sources. Source 1 is an article. I want you to give me quelques points de cette source. At least 3 pieces of information, distinct pieces of information you understood from the source. And then I want you to give me un résumé de cette source from its own point of view. So either through reading it, or it can include some of those contextual clues I showed you that are on the screen before you click the hyperlink to the source. Either way, I want you to give me a résumé, a summary of what the source is saying and what kind of point of view it's giving me. All en français. You do the same for source 2 and source 3. After those three things, I want you to give me le thèse, the thesis that you would write if you were forming this essay right now. And the thesis must answer the question, comment résoudre cette crise? So in this thesis, I want you to it should only be one sentence, state the point of your paper, your position, how you would resolve this crisis we're talking about. And then finally, I want you, when you write a persuasive essay, generally you're going to have le paragraphe d'introduction, which will include le thèse, paragraphe de corps, body paragraph, one, a second one, and then a third one at least, usually one per source, or you can include more than one source in a paragraph. But since you have to include all three sources, for simplicity's sake, I'm just writing introduction de paragraphe de corps 1, 2, et 3. And then you usually have une conclusion. We don't have to worry about that this time. All I want you to do for this part is, for each of these, I want one sentence that would be the introduction for the body paragraph containing that source. Source 1 for this one here, source 2 for that one there, and then source 3, the audio source for this one here. What I'm looking for is, I want you to state something that supports your thesis and uses information or shows how the information from the source supports your thesis. So for instance, you know, the first source you're going to read about is talking about le tourisme, how it's very important for des villages, des villes touristes, for les économies, but also some of the dangers of it. I want you to, in one sentence, tell me how that essentially start a topic paragraph about how that source supports your thesis. You know, you might say that something like nous savons tous que le tourisme c'est une bonne chose, mais il a aussi les dangers sur l'environnement. That would be fine because you got that information from the first source. That's what I want you to do here for this time. It's pretty simple, but I do want you to spend time understanding, trying to understand the sources, summarizing them, forming a thesis, and then trying to form the introduction of each of your body paragraphs. That will be good for this first week. Merci. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me.